Welcome back to another episode of the Becoming More podcast. I'm your host, Brett Yo, otherwise known as Becoming Brett on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Today I'm joined by Jeff Lee, who I've known for a little bit. He likes to run and stuff. Jeff, how
Yeah.
you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty well. It's a calm night here in Maryland.
Yeah.
So I like to ask everybody, same question to start the podcast. It's kind of like, what's the bottom line of your journey? And today's special because, I had to do the bottom line because Stone Cold said so, right?
So for me, I've been really kind of taking over my health in the last going on 4 years. So in December of 2017, I had gastric bypass surgery, and I've lost over 200 pounds, and I've kept it off for going on 3 years this December. So
That's amazing. So we usually like to go back in time and talk about like how you got to that point where you needed to get the gastric bypass, or decided to. So
yeah.
like when you were like growing up, were you like a big kid, or were you like athletic and then just gained it towards like later in like towards adulthood?
No, I've always been like the stereotypical big kid. Growing up, I was always bigger than most. Honestly, I probably have weighed over 200 pounds since middle school.
Yeah,
So
same
I've
here.
had, yeah. So I've always had a lot of athletic friends and friends who like to be active. So I've always like tried to like catch up with them. Like my my family comes from a very like athletic background. My dad played sports growing up, and I played sports, and I played golf in high school, even as a big guy. Um, but yeah, I always grew up bigger. I had pretty bad asthma growing up, so I was always like afraid to like overexert myself. Like it's just wild to think about now. Like you said before, like I like to run and stuff, and like a lot of people see me as a runner now, which is like
Mhm.
wild because like that would used to be like the most terrifying scenario growing up. In gym class, they're like, "Oh, go run some laps or do the mile run challenge." I was just like torture. I remember in fifth grade, like almost having an asthma attack doing the mile run, and the gym teacher's like, "Keep going, you're not done." I'm like, I
Wow.
can't
Yeah.
breathe.
Jeez.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Because
it's
it's interesting when you get like kind of as you now like transition to like you do a lot of running and you didn't before, and
yeah.
it's kind of like that thing where like you look at it and you'd be like, who are those people that run or walk? Like for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
walking because I don't run yet, but it's the same thing where like I would never imagine wanting to walk for or run for like 2 hours
No,
straight.
it's wild. So I think I just got comfortable with being kind of bigger and overweight.
Hmm.
Um, and then obviously like life starts to get in the way. So going through college, obviously that kind of just takes a toll on stress and availability. Um, and then like once you finally meet someone, so when I met my wife, I think we both kind of just got kind of complacent, and then I think that's when I packed on a lot of weight. Um, and no fault of anyone's like again, you kind of just get complacent, you get into a routine, you get busy, then life takes over. I I've always done, and I know this is probably typical for a lot. Like I've done every type of diet and weight loss remedy out there. You lose the same 50 pounds 50
Hmm.
million times. Yeah, every time, like, and every time I thought I thought that time was going to be the time I was successful. So I was getting bigger. Um, I'm like, you know what? I got to do something about this. So like my parents encouraged me, my wife encouraged me to go to like Weight Watchers. I'm like, you know what? Like we could do this. My dad lost, I think almost 100 pounds on Weight Watchers. Like he
Wow.
did really,
Yeah.
he did really well, and he got fit and active. And so I was like, I could do this. Like my mom lost a lot of weight, and so I actually went and I lost like 60 something pounds. I was like, we got this. But then like realizing that you lose almost 100 pounds and you're still 340 pounds, you're like, wow, like I got a long way to go still. So you kind of just get discouraged, and
Yeah.
obviously it slows down, so you kind of just fall off. And
Yeah, I've known plenty of people that have used Weight Watchers or other similar things, and a lot of them get like that where they get discouraged because they're like, I still have so much to lose, even though I've hit like a certain milestone. I mean, even myself, not I don't use those, but you know, I've lost like almost 250, and I still have like 100 plus to go, and even that, it's like,
I know.
like I just you want to be at the finish line, and it takes time, but so when you got the when you decided to go get the gastric bypass and all that after gaining throughout like adulthood, because we all do it, like especially like I got married pretty young, like 24, and like over time you just gain more, and you don't even like, it's almost like I didn't realize what was happening at the same time because I wasn't thinking about it. Like I just kind of went with it.
It is. It's scary how you kind of just get complacent, and you don't. I mean, I don't think we ever like saw or felt how big we really were. I know when I first stepped like on a scale at my weight loss clinic, and it was almost 440 pounds. I was like, whoa! I didn't think I would ever see a number in 400 plus, and it was pushing 450. So I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was wild. Like that's how I felt when I got because I was always I had like a 440-pound scale, and it was always like 444 or something, and I was like, oh, that's good, I'm only in the 440s. And I got that 700-pound scale. I'm looking at it right now, and it was like, well, I think the first time I got on it was like 580, and that was before I hit my heaviest. But it was one of those things where I didn't realize it till that point, right?
Yeah, it's a scary realization, and I know for me, like the final kind of push that I was needed was when my wife and I found out that we were expecting my first son. It started to like I that summer was wild for me, because again, I've always liked to try to be active. Like I ran back when I was 300 plus pounds. I did a warrior dash when I was 300 plus pounds, like one of those like obstacle course races. I could barely do the obstacles, but I finished barely. And
your audio cut out. Okay, so you're talking about doing the warrior dashes at 300 pounds and you couldn't do the obstacles.
Yeah, so the obstacles and stuff, like back then, like you could just go around them if you did it. So I would try, and if we couldn't do it, my buddy and I would just went around it. He really pushed me to try everything, but some of them were just, I can't physically lift 300 something pounds up over a wall. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I totally get it. Like
I couldn't do that.
Right now I work with a trainer, and she wants me to do push-ups at home. And I'm still like, I can't do it. Like I still have like 370 pounds on me. Like I just can't lift myself up. Yeah. He's like, I can plank, but then it's going down and getting back up. That's the hard part.
Yeah, that's always
yeah.
So my brother and I we're big New England sports guys.
Do you like the football?
Yes. I see that. It was a rough day. But I'll take it. Yeah. I'll take the other
the other six.
The other six we'll take. We've got to spread the wealth every now and then. But, so speaking of the Patriots, they have a run every year in July that it's called the Finish at the 50. So you do a 5K or a 10K, and the finish line is on the 50-yard line in Gillette Stadium. So you actually run around the parking lot. You go in the stands and all that kind of stuff. And that race was it was amazing but terrifying all at the same time, because I remember going up all the ramps all the way up to the top deck, and I was just like, I just had to walk up every ramp because it's like, this is like, I'm gonna die. And then we finished and I was feeling good and like did this amazing thing. So on the way home, I was driving in the car and I felt like I was having like palpitations, like, and then I felt like I was almost going to pass out. I didn't, thankfully. Like I was driving, so thank God I didn't. But I just felt weird, and I had like real big kind of like health anxiety because being almost 400 plus pounds, like I always think something's gonna happen. Like this is it. Like so I ended up going to like an emergency clinic, just stressed out, and they did all these tests and monitors and all this other stuff, and they're like, we don't see anything. Like who knows what it could have been? Like you seem okay now. But that whole summer, and it was the summer that we first found out, it was like 2 months after we found out we were expecting a child, that I felt like I had a heart attack. So that whole summer I had just severe anxiety. Like I have like a whole new respect for people who struggle with anxiety, because I've worked with kids in the past who are very anxious. I work with kids now who deal with anxiety issues on top of lots of other things. And I definitely understand how crippling it can be, because like it happened in, like I was afraid to drive. I was afraid to work out. I didn't, back then I was, I worked as an aide in a school. So my background's education. So I've been working in education for over 10 years, and I started as a paraprofessional working with, and I kind of worked with a lot of kids who were struggling with behaviors in schools. Currently I'm a special ed teacher with severe students with severe special needs. And so I understand like how anxieties could be like just take over your life, because I was afraid to drive, I was afraid to do anything. I didn't have a job then, so I was just at home, like just just focused on like, am I going to be there? Like, am I going to be there for my son? Am I going to be there for my family? Like, what's going to happen? I actually went and saw a cardiologist because I didn't believe any of the doctors. Like, and they put me on like a monitor 30 days, and they're like, everything's completely normal. Like, you had 0 anomalies. Like, you're fine. But I remember it was like towards the end of summer, and I just like went in again because I felt like something was wrong. I went in to like the emergency clinic, and the doctor, I remember asking me, it's like, so what's wrong? And I just like broke down. Like I was so stressed and overwhelmed and just anxious. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just don't know.
Yeah, it's tough when you can't like diagnose it, right? Because or the doctor can't diagnose it. And going back to what you were saying about Gillette, you know, I went to Gillette like the year I had my pulmonary embolism. I just remember walking from like the parking lot to my seat was like a mile plus, and I was just like dead, because I was like 600 pounds. I only because I went to a concert while I was on vacation in Massachusetts, and it was just one of those things where it was crazy. Like, I can only imagine like going all the way up.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I've been at Gillette, and we've made that crazy walk. And my brother and I remember we were at a game, and I was sitting, and the seat broke. Like I broke a seat just from being as big as I was, and it was like so embarrassing. And then you had to like pretend like it didn't happen. It's like, so I'm like sitting there doing like a squat for 3 hours. It's like
and that's even worse, right? Because you're like trying to hold your weight awkwardly.
Okay, it was just wild. So yeah, that summer where like before my son was born, it kind of put a whole new perspective in. And it took a year after that. Like I had this crazy summer and crazy experience, and then my son was born, and that kind of took over some of my like focus and anxiety, where I just focused on him.
Awesome.
You'll experience that soon. And you'll know the change. You'll know the change.
Yeah, by the time this episode comes out, I will have known the change.
Yeah, it's instant, I can tell you. And then I think that's honestly what I needed, where it's not about like self-interest and self-preservation kind of thing. It's now you're doing this for them, and you want to make sure you can be the best for them.
Mm-hmm.
So almost a year after my son was born, I went to my primary, and she recommended me again. They're like, you should look into weight loss surgery. Like, I've had people do really, really well. Like, the hospital and clinic near me was actually like one of the better ones in the state. It was through UMass Memorial Hospital, which is like they train doctors that do these kind of surgeries and stuff there. So eventually I'm like, you know what? I'll go to a seminar and see what they say, and that's how the ball got rolling.
And which type of surgery did you get again?
So I had gastric bypass.
Okay.
So that's where they actually kind of make like a pouch, and it's called bypass because they kind of reroute the stomach. But the stomach's in there. I know with the sleeve, they remove a chunk of it.
Yeah.
All my parts are still there, but one's a lot smaller now.
Yeah. So after you had the surgery, so I often hear, I've talked to other people that have had the surgery and those that haven't, but so a lot of them have said that, after they first had the surgery, because you're on that liquid diet for a while, and like you lose pretty consistently early on.
Yeah. It came off surprisingly fast. Like, if you follow, because again, you're so severely limited. For a month after, for 2 weeks, you can only have basically protein shakes, and then you can have like soft foods like yogurt and cottage cheese and scrambled eggs, and then the portion sizes are just absurdly small because of the nature of the fact. Like, one of those like Chobani yogurts, I could only eat half. Like, and I'd feel like, oof, like so full. And
yeah, it's kind of funny. I heard on another podcast, somebody that had I think the sleeve had mentioned that it was Sleeve Believe the Hype was on I forget which podcast it was. Anyway, he had talked about how, he used to go out and would get like an appetizer, a salad, and like a whole like fried seafood meal. And then like now he looks at that and he's like, that's like 3 meals.
Yeah, it's wild.
For like one person.
Yeah. And it's crazy. You realize like how much like food is a part of just the culture of America. Like, celebrations, like you would go and be like, I can't have that, I can't have that. And then the sheer portions of things, like even now, so almost 3 years out, obviously the restriction that I used to have is it's there, but it's considerably more now. Like, I can eat, like, people would be surprised to know that I've kind of had this surgery, because you could still eat after a while. You can do it. And I think the bigger thing with gastric bypass and the sleeve and any kind of weight loss surgery is that it gives you that like 6 month to like 12-month period where it's such a strong restriction that it allows you, it forces you to get everything else under control. So so it allows you to build these healthy patterns and healthy routines so when you can start to eat more, and it will happen, that you have this in place. So they always say the honeymoon periods is like 12 to 18 months, because after that you start to be quote unquote more normal. You know what I mean? So you have to start really focusing on nutrition and doing healthy habits and having all these things continue, because it's a tool. It's not a quick fix. I know the analogy that I hear a lot that I like, especially for people who kind of like quote unquote like bash the weight loss surgery being like the easy way out and all this kind of stuff. It's like, well, just because you can build a house with a hammer and not a nail gun doesn't mean you shouldn't use either one. You know what I mean? So it's just a tool. And I think in my mind, I didn't give myself kind of like the credit, quote unquote, like that I feel like I should have. Like, my surgeon, I think my 1 year I was down like 180 pounds or something like that. It came off crazy fast, or 120 or something. It was well over 100 pounds. And I just assumed that was like, that's what happens when you have the surgery. You lose weight crazy fast. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, but
So I was like,
it's a lot of work that you do.
it
yourself,
is, and
right?
that's what my surgeon was like yelling at me. It's like he's like, I didn't do anything. He's like, you did everything. He's like, I gave you this option and you ran with it and you became successful and you did what you needed to do and you did it. He's like, I've had people come in here a year later and lost 40 pounds. So
yeah.
like,
I mean, we've seen stories of people that also had the gastric bypass and then like it reversed it, like it didn't, because they just let it go, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I'm definitely up more. Like, I am currently in that kind of like maintenance phase where it always kind of goes down and then kind of levels out because again, you can't survive on 1,200 calories for your life. So like, so after a year when I was eating like 1,000 to 1,200 calories, like that goes up. Like now I can eat kind of like a normal, healthy kind of average caloric intake, but there's days like I can eat the junk and all that kind of stuff now, and so now I'm kind of having that moment. And it's like, okay, like we got to get refocused and resettled, and nutrition is it's the biggest key. And everyone says like you go and work hard and do all these other things, but you still have to control what's going on in the kitchen.
Yeah, and so much of that is what's in your head, right?
Yeah, the mental aspect of losing weight. I mean, I'm sure you know the same thing. It's wild, especially when it comes off so fast, because like your brain doesn't catch up. I mean, I remember there's moments where like even like you try to go around people and you're like so used to like I can't fit through there, I can't fit in that space, or like I'm gonna break this chair. Like all these things are still in my head, and they're like, you got plenty of room, dude. Like, come over here. So there's plenty of days where I see that 400 and almost 50-pound guy looking back at the mirror and not the person who I am. So
yeah, and it's so easy to do that because like you just think because you have so many memories of being that guy, and then you have a different different physical body, but you're still like, can I fit in that booth? I can't fit in that booth, and then you go in and you're like got like 6 inches of room, right?
Yeah, or just even like just going in the store, and it used to be such an unpleasant experience when you were in like 4 or 5X clothes, and it's like all these cool designs and shirts, like I don't even want to look because I know they're not going to have my size.
Yeah, well,
so now I'm being like, okay, like you could just go in, like things like as sad as it is are just cheaper. Like I can go to Old Navy and get a shirt for $10 where I used to have to go to like the Casual Male XL and get a $50 t-shirt. It's like
I know
it's the same thing.
Same thing here. I recently had I had to go to DXL for something for cargo shorts because I was out of shorts for the summer. But other than that, I don't shop there anymore. And but it was even like going in there, I saw like the graphic tees, and it was like $40 some a t-shirt. I'm like, I don't miss that because I get mine now for like $12. And like I got this Austin 316 shirt, which I couldn't have gotten when I was at my when I was wearing like a 6 or 7X. Right.
Yeah,
so
it's my highest I was like 4X 5X for comfort. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would try to squeeze into 3X though, but it would be tight.
Yeah, and it's crazy once you get down to that size, and then you can go in the normal stores and just get something off the rack. Or
I mean, I still like I have people get me gifts and stuff, and right now I'm in a large, and I still see it. Like when they give it to, like I get something in the mail and it comes in as a large. I mean, there's no way this is gonna fit. And it does. It's just like, well, it's just wild to me. But,
oh yeah, for sure. I mean, even like I recently saw this t-shirt on Amazon that I wanted, and it was it was a size I could wear. And I was just like, it's so nice being able to just order something that I want and not have to pay a premium for it because of the size, because of that extra cloth that is insane that it costs double the price.
And they know that they got you. It's like, well, it's this or nothing. It's like it's one of the negative sides of being overweight.
Yeah, it is. It's funny too because going back to the Super Bowl that we won. After the Super Bowl that night, after I spent like a lot of money on memorabilia, like that football, and I had also bought like a jersey, and I still have it. Like I mean, it's been in my closet, and it's like a 2X, and it's like I put it on every now and then, see how it fits, and now it's like I can wear it and it's tight, but it like covers my entire stomach. But now, and I'm like, I just want to wear this. I mean, Nick Foles doesn't play for the Eagles anymore. I don't care.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's funny you say that because when my wife and I were first starting dating, she got me a Teddy Bruschi jersey because he's like one of my favorite Patriots. Like just his whole story and his work ethic, and he was part of the first dynasty. And she got him as a 2X. And it was actually kind of like mislabeled because it was priced at like, I mean, if you have a lot of sports stuff where it was priced at like the jerseys that are like just the screen printed numbers and stuff, it's like the cheaper but still expensive. But this was like sewn on letters and numbers, nice. But it was the cheaper price. So I was like, this is an amazing deal. I'm like, this is like the best jersey I've ever had. And I would never pay like the $300 that they usually go for, and it was like a third of the price. I'm like, I don't know where you found that, but good job. But it was always so incredibly tight. I think I wore it once to a party, and it was just so uncomfortable, and it just sat in my closet. Yeah. I mean, at one point I was thinking about just getting it framed to hang on a wall when I was like 400 some pounds. I'm like, it would look cool just hanging. Like I'm never going to fit into it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And now it's huge. Like I wear it to the game still because I love it, but like I can wear a full on hoodie underneath it and put it on and still be big. And it's just, I just remember thinking like this never fit me ever. And now it's just wild.
Yeah. I had a McNabb jersey like that was stitched. I got it on like eBay or something, but I would never pay for them, but I got it for a decent price, and it was in a container. It moved from house to house in this container. It never opened because I never could fit in it. And like in the last year, I've been able to actually wear it, and I'm like, "That's nice." Yeah, because you can wear it instead of like, I mean, it's like 10 years old at least. I mean, probably 15 years old.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same thing. Like I got this shirt, and it just sat in my closet for over 10 years, just doing nothing. Yeah, and now I can wear it, but.
And those like NSVs are like, I find even though the scale is great, like the NSVs are always my favorite because. As much as the scale doesn't want to move sometimes, because like, I know you work out a good amount. Like I feel like sometimes it's just because you gain muscle over fat. Yeah. But when you have the NSVs like fitting in a jersey, not needing like a second seatbelt on an airplane, not like being able to fit in a booth, not like needing whatever it might be, right? I just feel like they're the best. What were some of like your like some that you've experienced that were some of your favorite NSVs besides the ones we kind of mentioned already?
Yeah. So, and that's honestly, I'm glad you kind of bring that up because I think people can get really hyper focused on the number, and the longer you go, the less it's going to move as fast as you want. So you really have to focus on like, how is my quality of life doing? So I remember, being able to go like to like the town I lived in, we had a real big carnival, or not carnival. Yeah. It was like a fair, like a country fair. I grew up in the quiet corner of Connecticut, so it was like farm country. So we have these agricultural fairs where people go and kind of just show animals, and they have like the little carnival rides and stuff like that. And I just remember taking and being able to go on like the kiddie rides with my son, because he needs an adult to go with him, and being able to fit in this little car or whatever thing that goes around, and being able to experience that like happiness with him. And where before I probably but not, besides not even fitting in it, I would probably max out the weight limit for those things, the little kiddie things. So not missing those opportunities. And that's how I am right now. Right now I'm trying to focus on a lot of like the small things, small and big. So this year's actually as crazy as last year was, obviously with all COVID and all that kind of stuff. This year, luckily, my oldest son just turned 5. I actually have another son that was born. He's a year and a half now, so I have 2 crazy little boys running around. But my oldest, being 5, he can start doing sports, which has always been kind of like a dream of mine. Is like, I mean, what dad doesn't want to play sports with their boy? You know what I mean? So yeah. this year we were able to do t-ball, luckily, because it was open enough to have the kids play, and so I signed up to help coach. So in the past month now, we've been playing t-ball. So just being able to go out and run around with the boys that I coach and seeing my son play and like get a passion for being active. Like I want him to be active. Like he sees me run and he wants to run like me, and he sees the medals that I have on the walls and stuff like that. So it's nice to be able to kind of hopefully pass that drive to be just moving. So
Yeah.
I mean, a couple weeks ago, or even the past 2 weeks, because I'm gearing up to run a half marathon next weekend, I think, which is wild. So I had a goal at the beginning of the year to run a half marathon distance, which is 13.1 miles. I wanted to try to do it every month, but then I realized how wild that was going to be. So, like just training wise, like to actively like build up to be able to go to that distance, it was just too much of a grind. So I was like, you know what, I'll see if I can do it every other month. So I was going to go for 6. Last year, I think I did 3 or 4 half marathon distances. So I was like, maybe we can do 6, like every other month. And I think I've done 3 already. I did 1 in January, and then I did 1 in March, and I'm going to do 1 in June. So, but I did 1 in April too. I take that back, or in May. So anyways, besides me rambling, I just a couple weeks ago I did a t-ball, so I coached the game all morning at t-ball, which is kind of crazy. And then we come home and my kids get put down for their nap, and that's when I usually run on the weekends. That's when they're sleeping and they're kind of chill, so I can go and run around and not have my wife completely hate me for being gone for an hour or 2 running. At least it's during their quiet time. Cool. So I coached the t-ball game in the morning, and then I ran 13 miles in the afternoon. And I just remember thinking, like, just to have enough energy to do that. Like I used to get home from work and just walking around school, like I would be winded and I'd be exhausted when I get home at the end of the day that I couldn't do anything. So now I'm running around in the morning with 10, 5 and 6-year-olds, and then coming home and be like, you know what, let's go run 13 miles.
Yeah. But of course that wasn't like an overnight light switch, right? It was a long progression.
I mean, yeah, it's a long thing. And I've had people reach out to me about like, how do you get into this? How did you start this? And it's with running, like, because after surgery, obviously having abdominal surgery, like you can't lift and do a lot of physical activity until like 5 or 6 weeks out, until things are kind of healed. But you can start walking. And so at like 2 or 3 weeks, I just would go on the treadmill and walk for 30 minutes. And I would get maybe 1.5 miles. Like, and then from there, I just started going longer, slowly kicked up the speed. And I would say, okay, I'm going to run for a minute at like whatever speed. And then I'm going to walk for 3 minutes. And I'm going to do a run for a minute and then walk for 3 minutes. And honestly, that's how it all started. And I slowly ran longer and walked less. And it's almost 3 years of honestly like solid working out. Like I could probably say that for the past 3 years, I've at least gone to the gym 3 or 4 times a week for 3 years now. And awesome. a lot of times it would just be doing some cardio stuff at the beginning. And then a couple years ago, my brother and I, he was never really as big as I was, but he was big enough for him. And so he started getting into me and lifting weights, and we would go and do all this other stuff. And it's been great. I mean, this past 1.5 years, it's been wild for me because I actually moved. I kind of changed careers and had another child. So I think the fact that I've had all these major kind of life changes, and I'm still kind of settling in where I am with my weight, and I didn't let those stressors affect me this time. And it's like, again, those non-scale victory things. And
and it's like a big contributing factor is the mindset, because if you didn't have the mindset, you wouldn't be able to do that, right? Because so much of it is so tough when you, like, so many of us have it where we were before, and like anytime you get stressed, you go for something that's gonna make you feel better,
Yeah,
regardless
I
of what
mean,
it might be.
yeah, and I honestly I see those negative habits creeping back. I mean,
Hmm.
for me, my biggest thing was I've always been kind of that like closet eater. Like um at work I'm fine and at home I'm okay, but like going to work and coming home from work and like stopping at the gas station and getting junk and candy and all this other stuff, and I would just eat it in the car so no one would see me like pound like this bag of chips and a couple Reese's on the way. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
no one saw me.
Oh, for
No one
sure.
saw me, so it didn't happen, right? So like,
Yeah.
and I still, I mean, honestly, I still do that. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, the other day I was stressed at work, and I went to a gas station nearby because I moved my truck from one parking lot to another. It's a large campus, and I was like, I need gas, so I'm gonna go get gas. And then when I got gas, I went in and got like one of those Reese's, like the big cups,
oh, they're so good.
and I didn't eat it yet. It's in the fridge at work because I was like, I'm gonna try not to eat this best I can, but it'll happen. But it's also like it's one pack of cups. It's not like I didn't buy a 6-pack, right?
I know, yeah, and it's so bad. Like not bad because I'm glad that I can't really eat that garbage anymore. But like, if those were around like when I was really big, it would not be good. Because I
Yeah.
am a fiend for Reese's. Like that is like the apex of candy in my eyes.
Have you ever had the 2.5 pound ones?
No, but I've seen them. Yeah, everyone used. Oh, we're gonna buy those for
Yeah,
you. I'm like,
yeah. One time I got them from a birthday because I was like
mm,
a Reese's fiend,
oh, I love them.
and it was weird because eventually it wasn't so great because it was like it's just too much.
Yeah,
But I was like, it was tough to get through it. I got through it, but
yeah.
I think I got them for my 30th birthday is when I got it.
Yeah, the best any type of shaped Reese's, like the special edition ones, those are always the best. Like the trees and the eggs and
Yeah, the eggs. The eggs are my number one. Me and Gormy, when he was on the show, we talked about Reese's for probably about 10 minutes.
they're so. I mean, they're too good.
Yeah, and I don't like any of the knockoffs like the Quest or
the Quest. I mean, I'm surprised how decent the Quest is, and
they weren't terrible, but it just
no.
like it just wasn't like it was the texture that got me because it was like kind of the one I had was kind of chalky-ish, and I was like,
yeah.
But yeah, but I always just it's like one of those things that you see. I try not to see when I go to the gas. Usually, if I go to the gas station, I don't go in. I just that's how I avoid it because
that's my new biggest thing right now is some of my friends on here we're gonna try doing a junk-free June because it's getting a little out of hand. So we all are gonna kind of, I mean, because it is. I mean, the stress of everything with the world right now, but now things are getting better. Things are opening up. We can't blame that anymore. So we can go to the gym again. We can do all this. I mean, that's
you got junk-free June and then like sober October and
all these little things. I mean, I know when I that my first year. Right after my first year, where I really started to like really get into like fitness and accountability and all that kind of stuff, where I wasn't just doing like cardio. I would look for like these like monthly challenges. So like either like I did like a jump rope challenge where you had to do so many jumps a day, and I did a push-up challenge and like a burpee thing, like just these like little daily accountability things that really kind of just it helps. And I honestly I would do like 100-mile months, like so they like walk or run 100 miles in the month. Even we had people do like bikes because like I hate running. He's like, but I'll ride my bike every day. So like we would do like 100 miles, anything. And I think I definitely want to start doing that again. I know this past month I have an Apple Watch, so like trying to go for a perfect month with closing all your rings and stuff. And, and it forces you to actively do something every day. So I think those little things really help. It just something to look forward to, something to do and push yourself every day.
I remember last June, so last May, I had done like a streak of walking. This is before my walking streak started really, and I missed a day, and I was so pissed at myself because I had done like about 2 weeks straight, and then I was it's just one of those things where I went back. It was like my first day back at my second or first day back at work after the pandemic, after we were off for like 2 months. And I missed my steps because I didn't really have a plan to get them during the day at work because I was used to being at home. And then, this is like the end of May, like this is Memorial Day week after Memorial Day. And so I was like, I'm going to do for June. I was like, I'll do 300,000 steps because I was like, that's 30 days times 10,000 steps. And I wound up doing like 450 or something because I did all 30 days at 10,000, but then I like had more, and it's just like that kind of became like intoxicating in a way because like you just want to keep going because you can, right? And then July was similar and August was similar, and it's like that challenge, like you said, is like it keeps you going because like sometimes like if it's just seeing like the number go on your watch, like, oh, there's 10,000, there's 12, there's 13. How much further do I want to go today?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I know because like I had a running streak too where I did at least a mile a day for over a year or for a whole year, and it's the same thing. It's just like, let's go do this. And I honestly had no real intentions when I started to do a year. Like I was like, let's see how far we can go. You know what I mean? Start as a month, then you hit 100 days. You're like, wow, that's pretty impressive. It's like, well, maybe we can do 2. And then we got the group of us, almost a year, and it's like, wow, like this is actually happening. And then we did the year. And I know for me, like that, because I actually went out, I did a half marathon distance for my 365 days. So I'm like, I'm going to go out with a bang, you know, my last 365th day in a row running, I'm going to go run a half marathon. So that was nice. But then the next day I was just like, what do I do? Like, because I didn't do anything. And I was like, I didn't run for the first time, where it was like almost my identity. I mean, the school I work at, the kids, like, you're going to go run today? Like, because they would see me change at work, and then I would run. And I live out on the Cape. So like I would like just go run and down to like the beach and back, which was a mile there, a mile back from my work. And so these kids, like, I'm known at school as like the runner, and like that in my head is just like wild. And moving and going to a job like after I've lost all my weight. They didn't like my old job, like they saw me transform. They saw me at my biggest and they saw me at my smallest. So there was like, they were all super proud of me and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, it's also that they had this idea and preconceived notion in their mind, like who I was, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And going out here and people having no idea that I used to be almost 450 pounds. Like, I just remember like when I first started like kind of opening up to some of the people at work, because it's not like I'm not just going to go around blast like, oh, look, I had gastric bypass. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't go around just doing that. So like, I remember showing people at work, like one of like my before and after pictures, and they're like, there's no way that's you. Like,
it's kind of crazy when you have that, because so many people like, I had switched offices a few times during my journey, and like the one office knew me at my heaviest, and like then when I've gone back a couple times to like see like a friend that worked there, and they're like, they couldn't, like, it was like after I'd lost like 200, and like they were like, you know, holy shit. And then like I went in this other one where I was kind of in between like 100 and 200, and then the last one they didn't know me at all, and I joined it like after having lost like 240. And so when I told them like, yeah, I used to weigh like 250 pounds more, and they were like, and like the one guy just did like a spit take, because he like he was like couldn't believe that, because, you know, also still big, but still that's a lot more weight. But when you mentioned the walking streak, it's kind of interesting too, is like how many people or running streak for you, how many people you like inspired to do it too, like to do stuff like that. Because as weird as it sounds sometimes to hear that, because I know, because I've had people that told me that they started their own walking streaks because I did mine, and then I stopped mine because I was just like, I didn't have enough time in the day to do it every day, especially when it got like dark at 4:30. So I stopped mine, and then I just was like, streak's over, that's it. And then I was in the running group chat that we're in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw you guys, like, as you guys were getting close to your year, and I was like, wait, so I went in my Fitbit and I like tracked all the way back to like the last time I didn't hit a mile a day. And it
Yeah.
was like literally like Cinco de Mayo. And that was incredible too, because it just was like one of those things where I was still had a streak.
Yeah.
I still have it actually, but my Fitbit doesn't work right now, so I can't track it.
Yeah.
It won't
Well,
sync with my phone.
That's like Don. Like, I still can't believe he's still going, because him and I, like, we watch each other run, and we comment on each other all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even put two and two together that I knew he was again started with like going for a month, and he was a week ahead of me. Like, so, and he's still going, like the Iron Man that he is. Like, it's amazing to see all this. And I've had people reach out, and they're like, again, I'm the kind of guy where I don't feel like I'm special. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing this, but it's nice to have people say like, hey, like, you really make me want to go out and run, or go do this, or go do that, or and that's honestly why I first started kind of like documenting everything. Because when I first started having ideas and all these kind of things about like, can I do this? Like, can I lose the weight? What is it going to look like? Like, are people successful? Like, I turned to like Instagram and social media, and I found some people who were super successful, and I was like, wow, it's like, maybe I can do this. And so just seeing that, and if I could have anybody say the same thing, and that's great. Plus, it keeps me accountable, because I've had people where if I like forgot to post a run, they're like, hey, did it end? Like, are you still doing this? Like,
I had those too last year.
So it's nice that there's some legit people in this community just trying to push and support others.
Yeah. It's I mean, there's, of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, it's been, a pretty good community. And it's just, it makes it easy. It makes it better when you have like a support system kind of to rely on when you're like not feeling it or whatever, to the level that people online can give you that support. But yeah, so kind of getting towards the end here. I ask every guest like a hobby or interest that they have. It can be anything. You chose it. So what's yours for that?
So for me, like non-fitness, I'm really into sports. So like I'm a huge New England sports nut. Like just watching and all of them. And I usually, until last year, I've gone to a Red Sox game at least once a year for like 10 or 12 years in a row now. And my brother actually had like pseudo season tickets to the Patriots, so we would go every year. This guy he worked with, he never went. He got, like, again, like with any season tickets, especially football, like they're in the family forever. So this guy had these seats up in the nosebleeds, and he's like, we're never gonna go. And so he and his buddy would buy a bunch, because he'd be like, hey, you got tickets to this week's game, you guys want to, like, who wants them? So he would buy like 2 or 3 games every year and the prices were, the guy was legit. It was like, I'm just gonna give it to you face value. So it was very affordable. Nice. Super affordable, because it's all profit for this guy. Like, he's just made of money. So eventually my brother and his buddy were like, you know what, like, we'll buy them all, like, up front. Like, what do you want? Like, we buy them from you a ton. So this guy would go and pick a couple games he would want to go to, like the higher profile games, and give him the rest. So
that's awesome.
Like a couple years ago, that like Kansas City Patriots Sunday night game where they won them at the field goal at the last second. Like, I was at that game. It was wild.
That's awesome.
So just going to sporting events is like my all-time favorite.
Yeah, it's up there with me too. And for so long I didn't like going, because
it used to be a terrifying experience.
Yeah, like, and I hadn't gone to an Eagles game. Like, I went to an Eagles game in 2010. I didn't go again until 2016, when I was at my heaviest. And I went only because my dad. So my dad and my one brother are big Steelers fans. Me and my other brother are Eagles fans. And so Eagles were playing the Steelers in Philly.
Oh, perfect.
And so we went, but it was one of those where I was just miserable the whole time because the seat was uncomfortable. The walk-in was long. Like it just was bad. But then I went to the Eagles Seahawks playoff game, the last game of that the Eagles had fans in 2019, and it was a bad game because Wentz got hurt and all that. But another story. But just going to that, and I was like comfortable. Like it wasn't painful. Like going. I mean, we were up in the upper deck because I got the cheapest tickets.
Yeah,
and
that's where I'm.
Yeah,
that's where the real fans are. Come on.
That is, and even just walking up there, no problem. Like it was just like it was such a different experience.
It is now. I mean, now it is such a different. I mean, and obviously, I'm a.
Okay, so as we were saying, it's a totally different experience as we're at this smaller weight at sporting events.
So now, like, I'm a Red Sox fan, huge Red Sox fan. I've been forever. I mean, I remember going to games with my dad and my grandfather and my brother when I was like 5. Like, we've been going all the time.
I've been to one game at Fenway.
Yeah, so you could probably relate. I mean, it was built in the early 1900s, and the seats were built for people in the early 1900s. So
yeah, I sat in those wooden seats, like at the back of the first level. That's where we were at when we went.
And and those are some of the oldest seats there, and it's about 8 inches wide. So it used to be. I mean, it was such a fun experience, but also like a miserable experience. Like we would always try to get like an end seat, like at the end of a row, so I could sit at the very end, so I could kind of like stretch into the aisle if need be. But it used to be like terrifying. Like luckily, the Red Sox would sell out a lot, but I mean, a sellout in sports is whatever. Like people aren't there, so we would look to try to sit where maybe we could move down a row because there was a gap and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But where now it's just so you could just focus on having fun. Like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
One of the first things I did, actually, I think it was like 3 or 4 months out. I was supposed to go to a Patriots Jets game, but it was 3 weeks after surgery, and I was like, I think that's a little too much right after surgery because I'm like, I don't want to not go to the game. But I'm so glad I didn't because it ended up being one of the coldest games in Gillette Stadium's history. It was like -2.
Oh wow!
Yeah, my brother was like, good thing you're not here. He's like, this is not even fun.
Yeah. That's one of the ones like I always like I started going to games in September because I was like, I don't want to deal with the cold.
Yeah, this was like it was the last game of the season. It was like beginning of January, really. I'm like, no. But one of the first things I did was going to a Red Sox game, and I was like down 50 pounds, and even then, like it was already getting more comfortable.
Oh yeah, for sure. I actually had tickets last year for opening day in Philly for the Phillies, and I was so upset when because I never got to go to opening day, like I never experienced it before, and then I bought them in like whenever they went on sale, like way before the pandemic, and then pandemic happens, and I'm like, okay, great, can't go, and baseball's just baseball is so much easier to go to because it's like you can like go and then you can just like walk around the stadium, like you don't have to pay attention to the whole game.
You can take breaks, yeah.
You can take breaks. Like football, you have to be in it, right? Unless the game's a blowout, then people start to leave. But yeah, and sporting events it's just fun to go and see it with like a crowd. Like I did go to an Orioles game a couple weeks ago, like right when the season started. So it was like late April, and that was weird. That was really weird because it was. They said that there were like I think there were like 1,500 people in the stadium.
Wow.
And it was just so strange because like when we walked in, we walked in the first inning, and they were playing the Mariners. It was actually the same pitcher that no-hit the Mariners in Seattle, but this is in Baltimore. And Mariners hit a home run, and I heard this cheering, and I'm like, oh, must be some Mariners fans in here. And no, it was the players.
That's so wild. Yeah, that I wanted, like, I wish I could have like experienced that because that is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But no, my goal this summer is to get to a Red Sox game again. And
awesome.
Luckily, that's going to be a lot easier because I know. Things are about to open wide open this weekend.
Yeah. When I was up in Philly with our buddy Kenny, who won't come on the podcast. He'll hear this and he'll be like, he'll be cursing me. But you know, we were up there and we were actually talking about going to Phillies Mets because they were playing in Philly and it's his team and my team, right? And um, and like the tickets were insane. It was like for the upper deck, it was like $120 a ticket, and you had to buy a pot of 4. Except there are 3 of us, so I'm like, yeah, I'm not spending that much money on a random baseball game in May.
Yeah, so I'm hoping things will get a lot better, but I definitely want to get to a game. Again, it's
yeah, just to get back to normal, right?
Exactly.
All right. So the way I like to end every episode is to do 5 questions. I call it Brett's Corner. So they're varied, and you know what they are already. So question number 1 is, what movie or TV show or event are you most excited for in the coming year?
So I don't know if it's coming out this year or early next year, but I'm a big Star Wars fan. I love the whole Mandalorian series, and when they announced that they're doing the Boba Fett series on Disney.
Your audio cut out again. Okay, so wrapping up the podcast here, I like to do a segment called Brett's Corner, where I ask you 5 questions. Question 1 is, what movie, TV show, or event are you most excited for in the coming year?
So I don't know if it's this year or next year, but the biggest movie kind of thing that I'm looking forward to is the new Boba Fett story on Disney Plus. They did such a good job with the Mandalorian.
And Boba Fett kicked some ass in that show.
He did, and it's like, it was so wild because like I got so disappointed when they first. I mean, I don't want to give it's been out long enough.
Yeah, it's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan, you already seen it, so I'm not spoiling anything. But like when the Boba Fett character first made his experience, like the armor made an appearance, and I was like, and then it wasn't him, and I was just like, ugh. I'm like, I thought we were gonna get some Boba Fett.
It was such a troll.
And then a few episodes later, he just comes out of the woodworks. He's like, no, that's mine. I'm taking it back, and then he just goes Rambo on everybody.
Yeah. That episode when he goes Rambo on those stormtroopers was just insane. Like, it's something you never saw in Star Wars, like ever.
Yeah, no. Just like the
hand-to-hand combat.
Like, I was just like, this is what I came for. Like, this is perfect.
This is the Star Wars I wanted from the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, it was so good.
All right. So question number 2 is, what are 2 non-health related goals you have for the next year?
So a big one for me is I've been in education. My background is actually history. So I used to work at a regular traditional high school. And I was certified to teach in the state of Connecticut for a long time. Now I've switched gears. I'm in special education now, and I work with students with severe and complex disabilities. So I am in the process of getting recertified in special ed in Massachusetts. And Massachusetts, just like its sports teams, thinks they're super elite and have their own certifications and requirements. So it's been interesting, because any other place I'd be done already, but Massachusetts, like, you need to take our tests because we're better than everybody.
Would you say they're mass holes?
Oh yes, yeah. The tests are definitely. So my big goal is to get that done and situated.
Awesome. No doubt you'll get there. I mean, just takes time, right?
It is, and there's not enough hours in the day most of the time.
Yeah. Okay. Question 3. If someone came to you saying they were lacking motivation to stay consistent, what 3 pieces of advice would you give to them?
One would be to look for something that they enjoy. I think so many people look to say like, oh, like, you're successful because you run, so I need to run so I can be successful. It's like, no, like, not necessarily. Like, if you love riding a bike, ride a bike every day. If you love dancing and doing Zumba and all that stuff, just do something that'll make you move consistently. And I think on top of that, find accountability. So like, find a fun challenge or a goofy challenge and try it. Try for a couple of weeks. And I think the old thing is like, if you do something for 2 weeks, it becomes a habit or something like that.
Yeah.
Do something like that. So find something that makes you move and find something that you enjoy doing while moving. And the third biggest is like, only ever always compare yourself to you. I know it sounds cliche, but like I just try to be a little bit better than I was yesterday, and that's all you could compare from. I mean, so many people, especially with the accessibility of social media, they just get sucked down this negative wormhole because they see everyone's highlight reel, and it's like these people aren't perfect, and not many show that. And if you start focusing on like how amazing this person's doing, how come I'm not doing it like this, how come it's not easy, like, and just focus on be your own competition.
And everybody's different, so you can never do that. And you know, and one of the things that I've had recently was, which is not a positive of the Instagram community, I had a few people that tell me that walking isn't cardio and trying to judge my my own journey, and I was like, I had my own words for them, but that I won't share here. But you know, it's one of those things like, don't let anyone else. I always like, don't worry about what other people say, because like it's some rando on the internet for the most part, right?
There's an old saying that I used to hear. It says, "Don't let someone yuck your yum." So like, even though
I heard that on I watched this movie podcast on YouTube called The John Campea Show, and the one of the co-hosts on that always would say that whenever people were talking trash about like whatever, like sci-fi or Marvel thing, and she'd be like, just don't yuck my yum. Like, no. So
it's
I love
just
it.
Do what you want, and then good things will come.
All right, question number 4. What have you discovered about yourself during your journey or transformation that surprised you the most?
I think for me is that I am more capable than I ever gave myself credit. Like I never thought I'd be this successful. I mean, I'm a very negative, kind of harsh critic on myself. I'm my own worst enemy. So I never thought I could do this, and I never thought I could sustain it, kind of thing. I know a half marathon was something that I've always figured was like doable, and like even for me, I thought it was doable at a bigger size, which is true. I mean, anybody could do anything. So I remember just focusing like that is going to be when I know like I've made it, and the fact that I could say that I've done so many, and that by the end of the year, hopefully I can notch a marathon into that book. This summer I'm going to be training hard to run a marathon with Don and Ryan and out in New York. And
I might be there for the 5K.
Yeah. So just the idea of like that is crossing.
Cut out again. Okay, so we're talking about the run that you're preparing for in September, October timeframe.
Yeah. So just the idea that I'm considering and going to be training for a marathon kind of just blows my mind. And that kind of confidence that I could do anything is rubbing off into other areas. Like I'm in a career now that is physical. There's some days where the students I work with could become physical, and you have to protect them. And I think a lot about the fact that if I was still heavier, I could not be doing what I do now. And I honestly love the kids, and I love the school that I work at now. It's something that would have never been possible if I was still overweight. And I don't think I would ever have the confidence to make such a jump, to move 2 hours away to a whole new place. I don't think I would ever do that before.
It's definitely scary for people that don't do it. Because I did something. I mean, I moved like 2 hours away when I moved down here to Maryland, and it was like totally like you're totally alone kind of thing, because there's nobody around that I knew. I mean, I made friends.
Yeah, and that's how we are now. Like none of my family, the closest family for me is 2 hours.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you have to make friends that you don't know. Like all your like I reposted this on Instagram about a week ago. It's like it's one of the ultimate life hacks is moving out of your hometown when you're like in your 20s, because like having to actually make friends with a common interest and not just because you know them, right? For however long. But yeah, and one of the other things that you mentioned, and I can't remember what it was now, and I forget. So never mind. I had something, and then I forgot what it was. Oh, so you were mentioning about how you like being self-critical and negative, right? So today, behind the scenes for people that don't know, today is actually the day the first episode of this podcast dropped, and I recorded it about a month ago, and I was back and forth if I liked it or not. And it was just because I was so negative about it, because I didn't like how, because I was like, I said and too much, and I was like it's weird me just talking and no interaction with anyone else. And then I just was like, and then I like sent it to a couple of people, and I got their opinion, and they were like, it's good. And so I was like, all right. So I just posted. I didn't listen to the whole thing. I didn't listen to it because I was like, I already talked. I can listen to myself for 45 minutes. And then I've been getting like a ton of positive like feedback on it, which
That's
is
awesome.
insane, which is great. And it's just like one of those things where like you're such a like we're all such so critical of ourselves, or like our own worst enemy all the time.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, there's days where I'm like, I'm not doing anything special. I'm not doing like, especially at my job. Like I'm super hard on myself in my job, because I just always want to do more and do better. And I think it's good to have that drive and not to get complacent, but there's a fine line because you can get negative and kind of too dark. Yeah. So,
all right. So last question. It's the fun one. If in 150 years science fails to save us and all that is left is a book about your life, what would the title be, and what would the blurb tell us about Jeff?
This is what I have to think the longest on. I think that my title would be why did you like to run so much? And the blurb honestly would be just the deeper meaning behind like I tell people this all the time, that running has become like therapeutic to me, and like the people who also enjoy running get it, and the people who hate cardio, they're like, how do you enjoy killing yourself daily? But it's such a like cathartic release that I could just go out for even 15 minutes on like a shorter run or up to 2 hours on a longer run, and just kind of zone out and just focus on the steps and the breathing. I know if you followed my account, I started doing like views from the run, because I just started to really appreciate and take in what was happening. So like I would just be like, rather than, because I used to just be head down, go, you know what I mean? But then I just started to be like, you know what, like oh, that's cool, or that made me just stop and look at all these different things I was experiencing. So just the deeper meaning, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I said before. Just find something that you really enjoy and you love doing. And it's weird now that like if I don't run like every couple of days, I get like itchy for it. Like I need to go run.
And I felt that way about walking. I filled my time with other things, preparing for baby, but but you know, last year, so often like I would go out on Saturdays and Sundays when I wasn't working, and just like I'd go out for like 2 hours, and it did become like therapeutic, like because you're just in your own head. Like there's nobody bothering me for the most part. I mean, I'll get people that would kind of cheer me on in real life as I was walking, because they'd see me every day, because I did the exact same path every day, because I knew exactly how many steps it was after a while, so I knew how far I had gone without having to look at my watch. And but yeah, so it's just like it just became therapeutic, like you said. So it's awesome when you can get to that level.
Yeah, it is, and like I've had people do that. Like there's days like where I'd run and it was like 10 degrees out, and someone would be like out walking their dog, and I would run by and they're like, "You get it," or like people clap, or because I still think like I'm a bigger dude like running, and everyone's like, "Wow, go get it," you know what I mean? But
awesome. Yeah. All right, Jeff. So if anyone wants to reach out to you on Instagram or wherever else, how can they contact you?
So on Instagram, my name is Running My Best Life with underscores for spaces. So Running My Best Life 13. So that's my new motto. Just trying to get better every day.
Awesome. Yeah, and I will add that to the show notes. appreciate you coming on today. It was a good conversation.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, thank you. And until next time, we'll see you next time, I guess.
Yeah.